you. All right, very cool. So first off, I just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I do know that we're in Iowa right now, and I see somebody wearing an Iowa shirt right now, and Sweet 16 is happening in about 30 minutes, and yeah, my wife and I are excited. And it's opening day of baseball season, and there's lots of things going on. So I just appreciate everybody coming out and celebrating books with us tonight. Secondly, I just want to also thank Beaverdale Books, who we've had almost like a 20-year partnership with in terms of hosting our readings. We buy all our books from Beaverdale Books, and they're renovating, which is lovely. If there's something that's happening in the Des Moines metro area, and it's like literary related, Beaverdale Books has their hands in it. So first off, we should give a round of applause to Beaverdale. Very awesome. Right. But we're also here to celebrate Rachel Yoder, and I'm just going to do a quick intro. She's going to read a little bit, and then we'll get the ball started with some conversation, and then we'll have a conversation with everybody else. So, and then we'll have a book signing. So I should also mention that if you came here tonight, you get a free book. So that's lovely. Rachel, we were like, oh, we could pay you or we could buy your book. And she's like, give the books away to all the friends and families out there. So very generous of her to do so. So I'll just introduce her. Tonight we have the honor of hosting Rachel Yoder, the author of Nightbitch, a novel about a woman who has put her career on hold to raise her son, though 2 years into motherhood, she slowly begins to show symptoms of transforming into a dog, both in body and an identity. As Yoder herself has said, my writing always originates out of a deep personal need or some problem or question that I have to work out in a creative space. For my novel, I feel there's all these rules about politeness and niceness that get applied to women, especially to mothers, who are supposed to be caretakers and sweet and endlessly giving and endlessly self-sacrificing, and it all just seemed like bullshit to me. You don't stop being a person when you become a mom. As a result of this bold exploration of art and womanhood, all of which is woven into a magical and satirical fairy tale world, the novel was named Best Book of the Year by Esquire, and Vulture was recognized as a finalist for the Penn Hemingway Award for debut fiction, and was adapted into a feature film in 2024, starring Amy Adams. Yoder's stories and essays have also appeared in publications such as Harper's, The New York Times, Paris Review, Southern Review, The Sun. She is also one of the founding editors of Draft, the Journal of Process, which publishes first and final drafts of stories, essays, and poems, along with author interviews about how the creative process works. And she currently serves as assistant professor of screenwriting at University of Iowa, where she's writing and developing a feature that uses, once again, body horror and supernatural landscapes to explore ideas of grief, fertility, and the darker urges of motherhood and storytelling as a transformative force. Let's welcome Rachel Yoder.
Thanks so much, Mark. Thank you for inviting me to come over here to Des Moines, down 80. And thank you to Beaverdale Books for having me. It's a real pleasure. I've been trying to get here for years. And today is the day, so thanks.
Yay.
And thank you all for being here. I love looking out at this crowd and the different generations. You're beautiful, so thanks for being here. I'm gonna see if I can get this in the right place. All right. So I'm just gonna read for about 15 minutes, and then Mark and I are gonna talk a little bit. You and I are gonna talk a little bit, and we'll just have a nice little event. Let's see. Thank you, Mark, for giving us the premise of the book. I'm gonna read from the very end. Hi, come on in, don't be shy. The very end of the first section of the book. So we meet the main character called the Mother, and later Nightbitch. And she thinks something's going on with her. We meet her and she's like, I think I'm getting hairy. I think my teeth are getting sharp. I don't know what's going on. And her husband's like, you're so cute. You're so funny. And so as things progress, They progress in the first section of the book, and we're at the very end. We're gonna see if we're gonna find out what's happening, I guess, in this section. So it begins with the mother and her 2 or 3 year old toddler at lunch at an outside cafe, maybe based in Iowa City. There's also some conversations in here with her husband on the phone, who's away. He works away every week. And then there's also some letters in here to Wanda White. Wanda White is the author of a book that Nightbitch has become obsessed with, called A Field Guide to Magical Women. Wanda White never writes back, and Nightbitch keeps writing her, and I think views her as a sort of muse, a sort of surrogate mother, a kindred spirit, if you will. So there will be letters to her and excerpts from Wanda White's book also. All right, so we start at the cafe. The mother and her boy sat side by side. She set the bowl of macaroni before him and cut a chicken finger into small bites, which she arranged on a napkin. She was unusually silent as she did this, distracted by her hunger and the smell of the meat. The mother may have been in some sort of animal trance, cutting the chicken finger, yes, but doing it without knowing what she was doing. She could focus only on her hunger, a hunger that filled up every space inside her until she was nearly crazed. She turned to her plate, which is piled with meat, by the way. Oh, the glory of the meatloaf, the suppleness of the muscle fibers as the pot roast fell apart. She used a fork, and then she used her hands, and then she simply allowed her face to fall upon the pile. And you could suppose this was some sort of worship, the mother with head bowed, taking the foodstuffs directly into her body. There was a purity to such an act. The boy watched with wide eyes for but a moment, then screamed with glee and did the same, plunging his face into the mac and cheese and then sitting up with a noodle stuck to one cheek, cheese on his eyelids. He clapped. The mother continued in her fugue, the feel of the meat in her throat filling her. The boy reached over to take a bite of the corn, and she growled, low and quiet, and he retreated to pick up the chicken tender in his mouth and shake it side to side. She gulped the meat and moaned with the taste of it, snuffled and chomped, then nudged the pile of corn with her nose toward her son. He picked it up with one pudgy hand, slammed it into his mouth, and closed his eyes as he chewed. She ate and ate and ate. With a singular animal focus, she ate. She licked the plate clean. And when she arose, she saw that all the mothers around her had quieted. Even the businessmen were off their phones, watching. She picked up her napkin and calmly wiped her face. She took a very deep breath. She would act natural, play it cool. Horrifically, she met eyes with a man at the next table over, a guy with a smart haircut and an open-collared button-down, his briefcase beside him on a chair. Hungry, he said. Not a question, but more a verbal fist bump, a somewhat odd acknowledgement of what had just transpired. Oh, she said as her face flushed red. She turned away quickly and tried to laugh. Ruff, she said playfully to her son, unable to muster a light-hearted chuckle. They were just playing. It was doggy games. She was a good mother, and this was just a game, she said to herself, to anyone who might have asked. Mama, the boy screeched. He loved her every way she was. Be doggy, he said. And she smiled and signed, all done, as she said it, flipping her palms toward him. All done, honey, more doggy later. He barked and went back to his food, content for now. The mother felt a hand on her shoulder and turned to find an older woman there. She smelled of sweet powders, and her short gray hair was styled elegantly. Everything about her was pleasant, her soft makeup and clean glasses, the wrinkles around her smiling eyes, the fuzz of her cardigan on a summer day. What fun it is to have a boy, she said. The mother laughed. Ah, yes, she said, so fun. And what a mother you are, she added. What a wonderful mother to have such fun with your child. I remember the days. Thank you, the mother said bashfully, somewhat amazed. This woman who was not chiding her, but instead reveling and remembering. We used to play doggies too, she said, now talking to the boy. My son and I. It was so fun. He just loved it. She said, showing her teeth to the boy and wagging her head back and forth, then chuckling as she patted the mother's shoulder again and walked away. The mother watched the older woman and wished she would stay, sit down and chat, tell her about her life. You used to play dogs? Really? Did people think you were strange? How old is your son now? How is your relationship with him? Did you work when he was young? What were your passions? Did you make the right choices? What would you have done differently looking back now? Can you please tell me what to do? How to be happy and fulfilled? Can you please tell me the secrets? Because I know there are secrets and I'd like to know all of them. She nearly wept with longing to sit down across from that woman, take her old, soft, highly lotioned hands in hers, and ask her questions. Her own mother, who was far away, rarely called, and when she did, spoke only of the garden and the weather, the shortening days, how they were in dire need of rain. She had once, while pregnant, attempted to talk to her mother about childbirth, what to expect, how she was scared of the pain, how had her mother managed, to which her mother had only the offer of, "It's called labor because it's hard work," which she understood as a consolation. Sure, her mother was saying, it's bad, but since you're a woman, this is your lot in life, your work, to do what's hard, what's unspeakably painful, and then to keep the covenant of silence. Later that night, she was talking to her husband on the phone. "You'll never believe it," she said to her husband on the phone that night. He said, distracted. "This morning on the porch, there was a pile of dead animals." "Excuse me," he said. "Rabbits and squirrels and maybe some mice, a raccoon on top." She let out an elated whoop of a laugh. "That's strange," her husband said. And she said, "Well, I guess it is, but it's also sort of fun." "Are you okay?" he asked. "I feel wonderful," she said. "Better than I have in months." "Well, that's good news," he said. "Is it?" she asked, laughing. "I mean, is it good news for you?" "What's that supposed to mean?" he asked. She laughed and laughed and laughed. This is a letter to Wanda White. W.W. Wanda White. I've been considering what really matters in life. I realize this isn't an original question, but still wanted to present my ideas to you in case you had been thinking along similar lines. Before my child, I had never longed for a family or even to be married. Instead, I fantasized about the echoing rooms of a museum, the expanse of dustless floors and white walls, the certain sacred hush that comes with such spaces, and then my work there in that space. This was the first fantasy when I was a child, the most generic of fantasies, but over the years it inflated and morphed. I thought only toward expensive haircuts with very little bangs and trendy eyeglasses, a sun-washed studio in which many interesting projects were underway, friends with lots of opinions and good taste, trips to Europe, summers at residencies, and on and on. I won't bore you. What I'm saying is that I had imagined this entire life. I had dreamt it. But then my body, then a child, and yes, he has brought me great joy. Being a mother, despite my loudest protestations, has been pure and sweet and true, but there is not room for the child within the sun-washed studio. Or rather, there is not room for art within my house with my child. It is as if all my dreams have been reset. The walls are blank, and with them, I am blank too. All this is to say, what should a woman fight for? Given her limited resources, limited time and energy and inspiration, what is worth fighting for? Is it art? In the grand scheme of things, it sometimes seems so pointless, even selfish, to force one's point of view on the world. Who really needs it, especially when a child needs a mother so immediately? I don't have any answers other than art seems essential as mothering. In order to be a self, it is essential. I should perhaps cease being a person without it. Is that enough of a reason that it matters to me? Back at the house. There are scratches on the door, inside and out. The edges of the books are chewed. One of the pillows is ripped and ruined. She will not leave the house and go into town. She does not want to. She and the boy play with Play-Doh and bake a pie and dance to songs in the living room. Her entire body is covered in hair. The cat, its fluffy tail, its supple belly, is irresistible. She loves to run and run and run outside on the lawn with the boy. They play catch. They play fetch. Should we get a dog? She asks the boy, and he says yes. Maybe we'll ask Daddy, she says, and then she says, or maybe we won't. They walk to the neighborhood hardware store and get dog treats and a shiny stainless steel bowl for water that she likes very much. She tries out the bowl once they get home, and the boy laughs, and he tries it too. He wants to drink all his drinks from then on from the dog bowl, like a dog, and she does also, so they do. They share with the cat because they're good dogs. She is becoming a better mother because she is becoming a better dog. Dogs don't need to work. Dogs don't care about art. Why had this never occurred to her before? She likes the idea of being a dog because she can bark and snarl and not have to justify it. She can run free if she wants. She can be a body and instinct and urge. She can be hunger and rage, thirst and fear, nothing more. She can revert to a pure, throbbing state. She had that freedom when she gave birth, had screamed and shat and sworn, and would have killed had she needed to. Her husband nearly passed out from the noises coming from her mouth. That's what he called them, noises. For a time, she lay with one leg in the air, and her doula told her that was the position she would have put her in had she not done it herself, to help the baby turn. But the mother had known instinctively. She had followed her body. What else was there to follow? If she could not be part of the world of ambition and money and careers, she wanted to leave it behind entirely and recede into the wilderness of her deepest dreams, of her corporeal yearning. No more reading about who was in what juried show, no more berating herself for not trying, each day planning to get back to her work and every day failing. She would simply give in to what she felt she was being called to be, an animal taking care of its young, with no wishes or cares beyond that. Fine then. She could almost feel the hairs sprouting from each and every pore on her body. She barked from sheer happiness, and the boy barked too, then scratched her on the head. For who is to say what wonders and mysteries women grow within themselves, the passage read, in the dim lamplight, before she drifted away on the couch in that late afternoon, after their day-long canine reverie, the boy snoozing on the living room floor in just his diaper. This is from Wanda White from her book. Who is to say what feats and follies, what absolutely not able even to be imagined modes of existence women have accessed since the dawn of human history? A woman, when pushed to her limit, will call on all her faculties, all her skills, all the biological tools and tricks at her disposal, not only to survive, but moreover, for those who have reproduced, to care for her young. As such, the mother, especially the mother of infants and very small children, occupies that peculiar space of in-between, not fully human or fully animal, and it is in this liminal other world where we find many of the most compelling magical women. In this space, her powers are at their most formidable, and her constitution at its most volatile, creating a nexus of unmatched capacity. Go, Wanda. The mother sank deeper into the sofa and blinked to stay awake, for the writing seemed to emerge from somewhere deep inside her, even though it was right there on the page. From the book. Perhaps most peculiar. Most magical women are not aware of their powers and proceed into the realm of the magical without so much as a parting glance. To them, this journey is as natural as breath, as natural as falling into sleep. To pass from the world of the known into that of the unknown often happens unconsciously, but whether conscious or not, it marks the beginning of what the Quolo call her aga, or second life. Her husband returned home Friday evening. It was late in the summer, so late that if you squinted, you could begin to see the leaves of the trees turning. It had been a beautiful day, and even after a 5-hour drive, he was in a great mood. The side screen door was unlocked, and the heavy winter door behind it ajar, as they often left it in the summer. A breeze pushed in through the open windows, and music played softly from the living room. "Hello?" he said, kicking off his shoes and leaving his suitcase by the washer. The kitchen was orderly and clean, the bathroom shady and smelling of bleach. The beds were made, the carpets vacuumed. Beside their bed sat a new kennel, bedded down with a soft throw blanket, a down pillow from the bed. No dirty clothes on the floor, though, as there usually were. No wayward toys strewn hither and yon, as there usually were. Twilight breathed in and out of the open windows, moving the gauzy curtains. He walked through the house and called for his wife. "Honey," he said, "where are you?" In the living room, he found the boy, happy and clean, in only a diaper, sitting beside a dog who stretched out on the clean rug. The dog was enormous and reminded the husband of a wolf, with a thick coat of silver and black fur. It opened one eye to watch the husband. "Baby, where's Mama?" he asked. The boy clapped and laughed. "Dog," he said joyfully, then wrapped his doughy arms around the neck of the animal and laid his tiny head on her chest. The animal rose as the husband approached, hands in the air as if he were being robbed. "Good dog," he said, "good." The animal pulled back its lips to show its teeth, then snarled quietly from deep in its chest. In one sharp movement, the dog rose and sprinted to the back of the house, to the French doors, which had been left open, and out onto the lawn where the long day was darkening. The child screamed with glee, and the husband chased after the dog out the same open doors. His wife, he thought, moving toward the coming night. She must be out there. And I'll stop there. Thanks.
So we'll be doing like a Q&A in a minute. So we'll be thinking about some questions you want to ask the author. But I want to start off, we were talking earlier this afternoon, and we kind of got cut off because we had to like start the event. But we were talking about the title, and I think I read somewhere that publishers were giving you a lot of suggestions about like not using this title, something that's a little bit more accessible, less abrasive, more sellable. And that was like kind of a sticking point for you. And you kind of, but when we were talking, you're like, you maybe have some mixed feelings about the title now as it's moved forward.
I need to process that. Yeah.
I know. And I teach a lit class, and we probably had like a 20-minute conversation about the nature of the title and the complicated nature of that word.
Oh my God, can you tell me what you guys talked about?
Yeah, we were talking about like how it depends on the context, right? It's like women telling women this could be derogatory or empowering. A straight man saying it versus a gay man saying it. A straight man saying it to another straight man means something differently. And so it's just like it's such a complicated word.
It is.
And I love the title, but I'm curious about like what the experiences was putting it on the book.
Yeah, let's talk about the title. Great question. Thanks. I think I don't know if it's ambivalence or whatever was coming out when I was talking to you, is that I think when I was younger, my relationship with the word was very nonchalant, right? Like I didn't think about it. And maybe this was also the nature of the 90s, but like people said it all the time and you kind of didn't give it a second thought. Like, you know, like my sister called other women the B word. Like I'm sure I did too. But it was just something that felt very common. And now, you know, I'm a teacher. I'll see it in my, sometimes in my students' writing, like in their scripts, or someone will just, and it feels so much harsher now. It feels like really bad. And in a way it didn't when I was younger. And really like personal and really misogynistic. And so I think I was, as I was playing around with even her kind of naming herself that, and like naming the book that, part of me, I think, was a little uneasy because I hate the word so much, and I feel like it's so, there's even a passage in the book, right, where it's so sharp, and you can just get cut down with it so quickly, right? It's just such a way to discount a woman, is you just say that word, and it's like, you just sliced her in half. And so I was thinking, well, what happens if she's like, yeah, I am a bitch, and it's awesome, and it's awesome that I'm a bitch. And it's also this ridiculous, she literally is a bitch, there's also this silly side of it. So yeah, I think I'm glad that it's the title, but there's also an uneasiness in me, in my own relationship with the word. But it was really, I think it's so funny because, there were 2 editors who were interested in it in the book when I was selling it. One of them was like, all systems go on the title, love it. Your book's never going to be on an Amazon banner. It's going to be an indie book. There are only certain, marketplaces where we can advertise it. The other editor said, well, you have to change the title. It's just not going to work. And I was like, well, if you're saying I have to change the title, there's something you don't fundamentally understand about what the book is trying to do. And the title is going to give you your audience. People are gonna self-select into this audience when they see the title. And I think it's so funny that it's now a movie, and the movie is called Nightbitch, right? Everyone was so worried at the beginning, and I remember NPR blanked out, it was just Night B on NPR. One of my friends called it Night B word, one of my proper friends. And my son calls it Night, he bleeps it out, he's 11. So that's appropriate. Yeah, so I think it actually in the long run really served the book, and I'm really glad that we stuck with it. And yeah.
People have gone all in on
People
the word.
are all in on it. People identify as Nightbitch. Yeah.
But it is sensitive, even when we're talking right now. We're like, what do we say? Do we not say? There's a tiptoeing quality to it, which I think is part of its allure too. I think that's why people love it so much, right?
Yeah.
We were talking in my class about how when people use the word, and it's like, well, when a girl calls out or a girl that, it's like, yeah, it's like you're strong and outspoken. But when a man says it, they're saying you're strong and outspoken. It's the exact same definition, right? But one is derogatory and one is empowering. And it's strange how it's this weird double entendre sometimes.
Yeah.
Speaking of, can you tell us a little bit about the origin story of Nightbitch, and tell us how the idea came into your head, and how it kind of the kernel of it transformed into a novel through the process of writing the book?
Sure.
Well, when I had my son, after I had my son, I didn't write for 2 years after, and a coming of age and early adulthood that was done via writing. That's how I came of age. I started writing. That's how I discovered who I was. That it was a huge part of my identity. And then when I had my son and it sort of went away, and the urge to write even went away, it was terrifying. So, when the urge sort of came back, or I thought I really need to do this for my own mental health and self-care, writing is what I do to live, to do my life. I must write. The last thing I wanted to write about was motherhood. Talk about internalized misogyny, right? And self-censorship. I thought, no one's going to read about women. Now I'm no one's going to read about women. It's, it's not serious enough. It's not real literature. I don't want to be one of those mommies writing a mommy book. I had all this sort of self-hatred. And I think it was, I got angry. You know, I started getting angry. Oh, this is what happened. Donald Trump was elected president, and I was very moved and enraged by the fact that, you know, he had said that horrible line, like, grab him by the pussy, right? And nothing happened. Like, he was then elected president after that. And it was sort of this moment for me where I'm like, wait, you can hate women and be elected president of the United States. Like, it's okay with everyone. And that's when I was like, I'm writing my fucking motherhood book, you know? and it's going to be angry, and I'm going to rant. I'm going to be a feminist scold. I'm going to rant. I'm going to say all the things that are annoying, you know, and that, like, would annoy men. Because I did have all these kind of, like, breaks on that. So, you know, like, you're writing for, like, the literary community and, like, you know, this, like, establishment and the canon, and it's very not that screechy and hysterical. All these, in quotes, all these things. So anyway, Trump got in, and I was like, I'm doing it. And my husband and I had this joke, because my son didn't sleep very well. I hadn't slept in like 3 years since he was born. If awoken at night, I was feral. Like, I was the meanest I've ever been in my life. Like, I'd be so mean to my husband. And so we would talk about Nightbitch. Like, Nightbitch she was real mean last night. And I would say to my husband, like, it's a really bad idea if I write a book where a mom turns into a dog. And he's like, horrible idea. And I'm like, I'm totally doing it. You know? Like, it seems so fun. And so it kind of merges the, like, enraged, inflamed feminist with this sort of silly, fun idea, which I also needed because I was sort of burning up with lack of sleep, the first Trump presidency, you know, like, stopping breastfeeding myself, you know, like, hormonal changes. It was just the perfect storm to start Nightbitch. So I had a few false starts. I thought I was going to write a collection of essays. I thought I was going to write a collection of stories. But when I gave in to, you know, maybe I'm going to write a novel, I talked about this earlier today, but I was like, oh, there's lots of room in a novel. You can just run wild. And I had never felt that sort of freedom when I wrote short stories, right? Because they have to be perfect. I compare them to watches, this, like, clockwork. You have to have all the gears that fit together, and they have to be, you know, perfectly constructed. And I thought novels are big and messy and sloppy, and at least that's what I thought. Right? And I was kind of like, I mean, I also felt like, so what if it's sloppy? Like, I have a 3-year-old, I'm writing a novel, like, deal with it. Like, I was very mad. And that served me well as a creative engine. It was like, am I going to self-destruct? Am I going to, like, cook myself with this anger, or am I going to use it? And the way I used it was to write the book. And it was really like there was a Nightbitch inside me who was the one who's like, you're going to write this book. You're going to say whatever you want. You don't have to show it to anyone. You can, like, tell and not show. Tell as much as you want. Doesn't matter. You don't have to show anything, right? Like, just like I was just so angry at all the rules when I started writing this book, and, like, all of the stuff that had, like, gotten Trump into office. So I guess I'm not going to thank Trump, but, like, it is a first Trump presidency.
I'm the same vein. I feel like contradicting. You know, some people, I think, just context my students, they're entering into this book, they're like, oh, it must be like, I don't want to be a mother, or postpartum, or it's going to be like an anti-man kind of like thing. I feel like, actually, you, like, the character is like, well, I love my son, I love being a mother, that's not the problem. And actually, the relationship with the husband, I'd love to hear you talk about that, because you could make him like a villain. You could make him like a Trump surrogate, and then it's like
Yeah.
an easy like. But they have a good relationship. It feels like there is a lot of love between them. His kindness is maybe the problem a little bit, though. I just wanted to see how he's off stage most of the time. But I'm like, how did you approach the husband character in the book?
Great question.
The husband was a problem. Yeah, I did think it was going to be too easy to make the husband a villain. Like, that wasn't interesting to me. It wasn't interesting to me to have the main character leave him. Like, I was more interested in how does a main character, like, move through this without destroying herself or her marriage, you know? Like, that seemed like a much trickier problem to me, like, narratively and just, like, philosophically. And the same thing with the moms. Like, at first, Jen, who's she's like one of the perfect mommies that Nightbitch is like, I hate that girl, you know? She's so perfect. She has it all together. And at first, I was just really mean to Jen. And I'm like, I can't do Jen like this. Like, Jen is actually rad, you know? Jen has so many skills, and she would, like, be your best friend if she were your friend, you know? Like, Jen's, like, all in. She's stoked. And so I thought, well, you know, they're going to have to join forces also. Like, Nightbitch is going to have to figure out how to come into community with people. Not just moms, also her husband. Like, how does she take she's so internal. She needs to find a way to, like, come out of herself, come out of this deeply internal experience and, like, start to connect with other people, which I feel is really kind of like, you know, her trajectory in the book. Yeah, so it was important. I also, like, wasn't interested in a marriage story. I didn't want to write a book that was a marriage story, and I do think the movie is more of a marriage story. You know, it's more interested in the dynamic between the husband and the wife. I was interested in Nightbitch's internal world. And so that was sort of, and you can do that in a novel, right? In a way that's so much more difficult to do in film. So it makes sense that the film is more about the marriage, right? Because it's externalized. Yeah, so that was all my thinking with the husband, with Jen and the mommies.
One more question before we open up to the audience. We're just talking about, like, the magical realism quality to it, and we were talking about earlier body horror and how this is a version of it, right? And how it's kind of, like, found a new place, I think, in at least cinema recently with, like, The Substance and Ugly Stepsister, and how there's, like, these feminist statements, like these, like, important statements being made through this horror film genre, and you're kind of, like, not intentionally, because you're, like, kind of before the trend, but, like, you kind of plugged into it. I'm kind of curious what your thought is about, like, what is it about this magical realism world that we can tell a feminist story or any kind of social issue story better through, like, the magical or through the otherworldly that we can't maybe do through, like, realism? Like, does it tap into something? This is a bad question.
No. I don't know. That's a great question.
And maybe I would love to hear what you all think about that too. Like, what is it about that world that can, I mean, the metaphors are so good, and, you know, like the surreal world and fairy tales. I think so much, I mean, I know for me, so much of what I'm trying to do with my writing is counter stories and narratives we are given as women. We have all these stories, you know, and, like, fairy tales about how a woman should be, and, like, what happens to bad women, what happens to ugly women, what happens to weird women, what happens to outspoken women, right? Like, all disobedient women. And so there's something really compelling about, like, taking those and rewriting them, right? Like, retelling them in new ways. I also thought, if nothing else, Nightbitch the movie succeeds because it shows period blood in the shower, which I've never seen before in a film. And I'm like, I want like the realities of women's bodies to be on screen and in literature. I think it's an incredibly feminist move, right? To be like, women's bodies are gross. Like men's bodies, like all bodies are gross, right? Like we're bleeding, we're excreting, like there's the great cyst scene in the film too, right? Where we cut it open and the hair comes out. Like birth is disgusting, right? And all of this has been like whitewashed. It's just like women are pretty and soft and smell nice, and it's like, come over to my house, you know? And so I think, and even something like, what is it called? The Lost Daughter, that Maggie Gyllenhaal did that adaptation, right? And it's about like a mom that is, some might say is a bad mom, who like leaves her child and husband when her child's young for a few years, right? She just kind of goes off, which men do all the time, right? But she's like a monster for doing it. And I'm just like, it's so great to see quote unquote bad moms, or like women being bad, women breaking down. It's important because it's countering the story of like the perfect mother, or like the like soft, obedient woman. And we just need different stories. It's not like endorsing their behavior. It's just saying women are all these ways. We're like complex people, just like men, you know? We have full interiority, just like men. And so that's why I really love seeing all these different representations, iterations of women, even when they're really dark and disturbing, you know?
Awesome. So we should open up to the audience. Does anybody have any questions about the book, the writing wife, any of the issues that the book brings forward? Who would like to start us off?
So I love this book. My daughter, who has two little boys who are 2 and 4, had read it, and she gave it to me. And it's so visceral, which is, you know, I can't think of another book about motherhood that is written that way. And that was really wonderful and really validating. I think especially for somebody in my generation, as you can see, you know. So thank you for the book. I wasn't expecting this. But my question is, I'm curious how it's been received by men. So my husband, the book has been sitting around, he's like, tell me again about what this is. And it's like, she turns into a dog? Is that just because she's really stressed out? Sort of minimizing the point of the book. But so I'm curious about that.
How's it been received by them?
This man loved it. I mean, I saw the movie first,
Okay.
and I thought it was like so compelling, and I picked up the book, and you know, the classic book is better, I feel like, in my opinion. But I loved it because I saw it for what it was doing, as opposed to some sort of like, this woman's crazy. You know, like, I don't know. What's the general response though?
Well, I always wonder if men feel defensive when they read it, and they won't tell me that. I mean, I don't exactly know. I mean, the men who come to events are self-selecting and usually are on board. I think, you know, I had a number of men say I had no clue. Thank you. And I'm like, you're welcome. I think maybe the most striking, or maybe the most interesting thing I can say about the male response has to do with the response to the movie, because the film world is still so male-dominated, male-centric, the reviewers, right, directors, the people sort of in charge. And this film got reviewed somewhere mid, and most of the reviewers were men, and some of them wrote incredibly misogynistic, insensitive. I mean, it was the response I was worried about when I'm like, I'm going to write about motherhood. They're kind of like, why would I care about this movie? You know, like, why am I seeing period blood? That's gross. Like, what is this movie's problem? And I was like, that's why she made the movie. You know, that's exactly why. And so, yeah, I mean, I hope the book has done, I think, you know, men who aren't on board or aren't ready, they just say they hate the book and it's stupid, and that's fine. I don't care. I mean, I'm glad there are some men who have read it and they're like, I understand what was going on with my wife now. And I'm like, God bless. You know, like, thank you. So, yeah, thanks for your question. Thanks for being here.
I mean, I feel like it was very, like the previous question, like, it's very fair to the men. And like, it's not judgmental to men. It's like, I don't think it's judging anybody, right? I feel like it's very, like, fair to, like, how they're approaching people. I don't feel like it's demonizing any community, which I thought was, like, I loved it.
Great.
Yeah, I know.
Great.
I thought it was, like, it was wonderful. So who has another question for our author?
I probably should apologize in advance for asking this question, but I saw the two movies almost about the same time, that and If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You.
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, well, I was going to ask you what your reaction was to that,
I need to watch it.
because I don't know if you're going for the same thing or not, but it's,
They're very similar, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't really speak to it. I mean, I think that movie, it's my understanding that that movie is like a little darker and more unhinged and angrier, which I think maybe readers of the book were expecting with the movie, and maybe the movie was a little less angry and unhinged than they were expecting, and a little bit goofier and more of a marriage movie than like sort of focused on a woman's internal world and her own kind of like journey and struggle, which I think If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You is, I understand is more like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I haven't seen the movie or read the book. I always like to read the book before I see the movie. But did you have any input, or did you just sell it and?
Yes.
So, this book sold January 2020, and then a few weeks later, my literary agent said, I'd like to introduce you to your film agent. I'm like, what are you talking about? How has anyone even possibly read the book yet? But people had already read it, and so then I started talking to producers who wanted to make a movie as like the world was shutting down for COVID, right? It was a very weird, surreal time. So what wound up happening is I optioned it to Annapurna with the caveat that I wanted to adapt it. So I did write a movie adaptation of this book before the book was even published. By the time the book was published, I had already like adapted it for film and nearly killed myself. It was like the hardest thing I've ever done. But so I did the adaptation, and then they brought Marielle Heller on board, who's the director, and she comes from a theater background, a little less crazy than I am, like maybe a different sensibility. And she's like, you know, I want to do my own adaptation, which at that point, like the book was going to come out, and I had to go and promote the book, right, and focus on that. So I was like, I just did something. It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I got paid for it. I got into the WGA, the Writers Guild, for doing that. I am happy. Like, I love your work, Marielle. Godspeed. Like, write this, you know, like, great. I can't wait to read your script. So, it was really, again, I was kind of like hands off. Made a conscious decision to just be like, I'm promoting the book. The movie is something different. I don't know anything about it. I trust Marielle. I love her. So, I read the script. We talked. She would ask me questions, like, what do I do with, how do I kill the cat in this movie without losing the audience? And I'm like, no clue. Good luck. And she figured it out. She did it. But, yeah, so it was really her project, but she was very gracious, and very friendly. We went out to set. We got to see them filming it, which was so surreal and emotional. And then they were also very gracious in kind of letting me be there for the premiere and do some film promo, which was so fun. Someone was like, weren't you so nervous on the red carpet? And I was like, I have been waiting for it my whole life. I am so ready. So yeah, it was really fun. And yeah, I love what Marielle did and Amy. I thought, yeah, it was a wonderful experience. And I should add, this film was produced by an all-woman production team, which is almost never happens. Yes, unheard of.
Cool. Other questions?
I'm curious now that you've written a book, adapted it, and teach screenwriting, just because I feel like we're seeing a lot of adaptations come out as bookstores and physical copies are becoming mainstream again, thank goodness. What is, in your mind, the key to a good adaptation?
What is in my mind the key to a good adaptation? I do think, I don't know. I'm going to say something which I might disagree with 5 minutes from now, but I think the key to a good adaptation is maintaining a sort of staying true to like the spirit of the original work. I don't think like staying true to the plot necessarily is even that important, you know. I think you can, I feel very free to take IP, to take other people's work and sort of use it how it needs to be used narratively. But as long as I'm staying true to sort of the author had this intention, they were kind of concerned with these ideas, and like not doing them dirty in that regard, if that makes sense. I think that would be the main thing. But for me, all bets are sort of off when it comes to like, I'm going to add, you know, like, actually, like, your story is just the first act of this movie, and I'm going to add 60 more minutes to it, you know? I adapted a short story that's now in development, and we're trying to find a director. And it's sort of, like, indecipherable from the original short story, which was very spare. But I think it's... now I'm like, is it staying true to the initial... spirit? I think it is. It's definitely transformed, but I think it's staying true to that initial spirit.
What's your story? What can you say?
I don't know. I think I'm allowed to say. Okay. It's a Laura Vandenberg is one of my very favorite short story writers. Yeah. It is crazy how this happened. She wrote this short story called The Pitch, which I became obsessed with. Yeah. And I was on Nightbitch set. I was talking to one of the young producers at lunch, young female producers who, you know, discovered Nightbitch. She's like, what have you been reading? What do you love? And I'm like, there's a story by Laura Vandenberg I'm obsessed with. It's called The Pitch. She's like, I know some producers who optioned that story and their writer just fell off the project. And I was like, no. She's like, do you want to have lunch with them? Yes. So I go have lunch. We hit it off, and they're like, actually, we already have a new writer, but if anything happens, we'll let you know. And okay. But a few months later, they're like, that writer didn't work out. Do you want to write it? And so it came together. So it was kind of meant to be. But yeah, that's the one that's on the front burner right now.
That's awesome. I love Laura Vandenberg. And I do feel like it's strange because you think like short stories would not make for good movie adaptations, but they have like a beginning, middle, and end. Whereas like you said, like novels are big and messy, and sometimes they're like way harder. I think to like try to. Much. It's more like a TV series. Yeah, would probably like almost work better for novels as opposed to short stories. Anybody else have a question? Oh, we got in the back. Yeah.
Okay, so 2016 is what kind of started this for you. It's 2026. And this novel's kind of landed in the middle of 2020 and all the things. And you talked about like kind of being furious with the first Trump administration, and now we're in the second, and it feels to me like this conversation around women and like trying very overtly to yank us backward as a country. And motherhood, I've had 2 kids during this time, and just feeling like, oh, this magic that you talk about with motherhood, and like this specialness to maternity, and then there's like this cultural conversation being like, just bleach that bathroom so the husband can come home, you know.
I know. Yeah.
So here's what I'm trying to ask. Like, since starting the conversation with this book till now, it's been like 10 years with this book for you.
Yeah.
Like, have you noticed a shift in how you speak about it with audiences like us, or a shift cultural, or just even like within yourself, how you think about it at all, or
About Nightbitch?
about Nightbitch, and about like the conversations you're having around women and having kids, and how difficult it all is right now, particularly.
And how also you don't want to feed into the whole ballerina farm, like.
I was gonna bring her up, but I didn't, but yes.
Oh my god, I'm obsessed with her. I find her fascinating.
So fascinating.
And like, there's so many layers. I want to be like, girl, just like tell the truth. Like, I won't tell anyone. Okay, so we're on the same wavelength. Well, and it's this funny thing of like, you know, you want care work, you want mothering to be valued, but you also don't want it to be a woman's only choice in life, right? Like, women are more than just mothers, even though mothering is incredibly important, right? And is actually devalued, right? And it's sort of like, this is the only job you can do because you are not capable. I mean, there's this like horrible clip going around recently of how like women, you know, there are no women CEOs, there are no women, you know, women are only fit for these 3 things, which I won't repeat. But how has my thinking changed? I mean, I think I used to be a lot more sort of dysregulated, angry, chaotic, and just sort of in a kind of fury. And my thinking about it now is maybe no less furious, but a lot more sort of measured and strategic. I think we have to be strategic. And I think I want to make stories, make movies, make books. Oh my gosh, Chelsea Cox has arrived, everyone. The wonderful Chelsea Cox. I want to make stories that are going to be like subtle enough that they're going to make their way into the culture. I feel like Nightbitch came at a moment where everyone was ready to like be hit with Nightbitch, right? Like, mothers had been shut up with their kids for COVID. They quit their jobs. They'd, you know, been forced out of the workforce, and we were ready for Nightbitch. I think we're all fatigued now, and maybe the rage is not like, we're not able to maintain that level of rage. And so now I'm kind of like, okay, what can I do for the cause? Like, what movies can I write that are going to support this cause? And I'm sort of unapologetically, everything I write is feminist. I don't care. Like, everything I write is overtly feminist, is overtly like pointing out these imbalances. And I think that's just my project now, is to not be embarrassed of what like my work is, writing about mothering, writing about being like, I think it's so important. And I just feel like the work now is to be like steadfast and measured and strategic, and to not burn myself out, like keep going. So yeah, I think my thinking has like, I've matured. I think I've grown up a little bit. And I'm thinking sort of long term, like we're in it, like this is a long game, right? And how are we going to sort of change the conversations, change the culture? So that's what I'm really interested in now. Great question, though.
And maybe a good note to end on. So we'll have Oh, did you have a question? I'm sorry.
Real quick.
I'm sorry.
Yes,
thought
I
you-
just
I
had
thought
a
you were giving me, like, a
question.
sign to go.
No, I just had a question. So compare novel screenwriting, which is harder.
Which is harder?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they're both hard. It's
Yeah,
all
yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
I love screenwriting because it's formulaic, and that tricks you into thinking you can do it. And so I just keep getting tricked back into it, right? Like it's almost like a crossword puzzle or something for me. Like I love that there are beats and you kind of have to figure out where things go. I think novels are hard in that you don't know, it's like stepping off a cliff. You're just like, I'm just going to start writing. It's going to be 8 years and then I'll be done. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And you just don't know what you're doing for so long. And there's no blueprint. Like, how do you write a novel? I don't know. There's so many ways to begin and ways to approach it. And, but I think, there's the beauty of the novel is that there is so much space and that it is sort of, it can be so concerned with the interiority of a person, right? And that I was perusing your beautiful store and I was just kind of thinking to myself, oh, I want to write another book. I love books. Books are so good, Screenplays are fun too, but they're faster and no one's going to read your screenplay, right? It's not meant to be read, really. It's meant to be turned into this other thing. So I love a beautiful sentence. I love a beautiful book. So they're both great, but in different ways.
Let's thank Rachel for being here for tonight. Thank Baby Little Books for hosting us once again. We have books not for sale, but to give away. So come up and grab a book, and Rachel will sign up for you, and you can have a little conversation. All right, thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.